Welcome to the Right Club podcast, where the focus is on helping you, the real estate investor, advance to the next level. And now let's join this week's hosts and share ways for you to customize your life.
So how many properties do you have now then? Because you started with one, and then what? Then what happened?
Well, at one point, the high point, I was actually a co-general partner. We owned 490 properties under that umbrella at that point. I was there was two co-GPs, myself and Garrison. So and we had 26 other investors, and we owned this. Now that ended up being a learning lesson. Like bigger is not necessarily better. I say that, but in my book, and I do explain what we learned from that, so people can benefit from it. And here's a copy of my book, which just got published. Well, I guess you can't see it there, but okay, I'll send you a copy. I'll send you a photo of it later. But it's the Spiritual Real Estate Investors Bible, and it just came out this year, January 2023. But I share not just the successes, but I share also the lessons, the pains. I didn't want to write that book. Okay. So it is I've learned about people that had thousands of properties and stuff like that, but their lives was just a mess. And I was there at 484 just being a co-GP, not just because there's a lot of responsibility with being a GP, general partner, co-GP, but we knew that the property had a number of issues, warts on it. But we knew that they had a great uplift. But what we did is, because we had to sell prematurely, we left over $20 million profit on the table. Okay, was that painful? Yeah. Now, the other GP partner and myself, and say a handful of investors, we were in for the long haul. All we needed to do is just hold on to it for another couple of years, and the delta difference was over $20 million. So that was a very painful lesson. But my point to this is, never stop, even if others around you don't have the same vision that you have. Just keep going, right?
Right.
Just
well, yeah, and that actually defines what why winners win, right? They keep going, and they don't let obstacles stop them. They find a way around it. But I'm going to ask you a question. Like, your book, the Spiritual Real Estate Investors Bible. What's the main theme?
The main theme of that is actually based on Proverbs. There was a point in my life where I needed answers, and I couldn't find them from humans. Okay. So I'm very spiritually based, and when I do things, I want to do things right. I want to make sure that I'm walking along the right path. So, and for me, God's always God first. So as I read Proverbs, I kept getting different meanings, and there's 31 Proverbs. So to me, they're all principles of life. And if we could adopt them into real estate investing, because obviously I work with investors, I'm a real estate investor, then that does help me make better decisions. Because sometimes you're like, okay, do I do this, or do I go left, or do I go right? What's the right thing to do? Well, Proverbs always has the answers. So what I did is I studied Proverbs intensely, and I mean intensely, like for years. Okay, intensely. Like every single day I would read a chapter in Proverbs. I get a different meaning from it, and then somehow during that day, I think about that lesson, and along the lines, I would apply the lesson learned in Proverbs as a principle, and then I applied it to real estate investing, and it just helped us make better decisions, and it just flowed. So when I shared the idea with one of my mentors, who's Raymond Aaron, New York Times bestselling author, he's Canadian, he said, "Well, you got to write the book." I said, "I don't want to write the book. It's too painful to write. There's just too many painful things." He goes, "That's why you got to write the book." So he encouraged me and challenged me for about 4 or 5 years, and finally wrote it, right? And I'm glad I did. It's catharsis, but it's not something that I ever wanted to write. But if you really want to leave a legacy, if you really want to help people, you have to share everything with you. You have to be transparent. And I'm very transparent in that book. So you can see that, like, hey, like, I'm just a regular person, nothing special. However, these are the experiences that I've had. So because I've had them, here's what I want to share with you so that you can prevent the same mistakes, the same pain, most importantly, and also how you can leverage that and make better decisions moving forward so you won't get into trouble. And it really pains me to see people get in trouble because they don't know what they don't know. And that's why I believe learning is absolutely imperative for a success. And when one stops learning, a sad reality, I've heard that several places, that when people leave their schools and post-secondary education, even university, most people on average don't even read one book a year. And I find that completely apathetic. And in North America, we are spoiled with education. We have so many educational opportunities. And what do? We squander it. We complain. We skipped classes and stuff like that. And now I'm quite the opposite. I mean, I'm like, are you kidding me? So I read books, I listen to books, but I don't just pick anything random. I'm not into fiction. I'm into something that's going to empower myself, my family, and my friends, and my clients.
Thanks for listening to the Right Club podcast, where the focus is on helping all levels of real estate investors advance to the next level and help you customize your life. Be sure to tune in next week at rightclub.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you get a few seconds, please rate the podcast wherever you're listening. It helps the show get noticed by others like you, and we truly appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe.